Uh, Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. A little bit behind technical difficulties, but I'd like to send out my deepest condolences to the Heron family, Lalonde family, and the Mabbitt family. So, and then having said that, I'll pass the reins over to Councillor Ferguson. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Daniels. I just would like the mayor and council wishes to acknowledge the town of Fort Smith is located within Treaty 8 territory. Treaty 8 territory also encompasses the traditional homelands of the Salt River First Nation, Smith Landing First Nation, and the Indigenous Métis peoples of Fort Smith. These nations have maintained stewardship of the sacred lands throughout the generations, and we honor your knowledge, teachings, and traditions of the land. We are mindful that colonization has not been kind, and we respectfully recognize our generational histories and commit to strive for unity in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. And I also actually wanted to just say from the mayor to express the loss of a loved one can be devastating at times and impossible to accept. The town of Fort Smith is still coping with the loss of one of its community's most respected residents. Kevin Heron was beloved husband, father, brother, and uncle, grandfather, and confidant, and the list goes on and on. But I was fortunate enough to call him a friend of mine and colleague. Kevin Heron always strived to put the town and its residents at the forefront, and his passion and commitment to the town of Fort Smith will never be forgotten, and his presence and influence in the community will be greatly missed. The town of Fort Smith and council and staff expresses our condolences to his wife, Diane, son Spencer, Alexander, Julian, Elliot, and extended families and close associates. He will may be gone, but he'll never be forgotten. All right, moving on. We have a delegation.
So we have Elena Ward here, working with the NWT Habitat for Humanity. Habitat for Humanity. So in the last meeting, it was brought forward and there were some extra questions. So Elena has been kind enough to join us tonight so that she can answer any of the questions that may come up and give us a brief explanation of the program and what would be required of us. So Elena, can you hear us?
I can, yes.
Okay, I'll let you take over from there.
Okay, thanks so much. And thanks for the invitation to join you tonight. As I believe you had the letter and had an opportunity to review that letter. Right now, Habitat for Humanity, NWT, is in the process of looking at what communities to build in 2023 and potentially beyond. This year, we are building in the town of Hay River and Yellowknife, and in 2023, 2024, and 2025, we will be building at least one single-family home in a community outside of Yellowknife. So we're in the process now, kind of in our determining what communities may want to partner with us to do that, and also communities that have high housing needs with families that may fit the eligibility criteria to become a Habitat homeowner. Just to kind of reiterate briefly what we are hoping to have in a partnership with the community that we build in. The number one thing is an in-kind donation of a suitable residential building lot that is able to accommodate approximately a 1,200 square foot modular home. That really is key because it helps us keep our build costs down, which ultimately those costs are passed on to the family that becomes the homeowner. So that is an important element that we would request from the municipality that we do go into. The second is having tradespeople within the community who could perform professional services, contracting, electrician, plumber, that sort of thing. Obviously, with a home build, we need to have access to those professional services. And another thing that is important is having a local liaison in the community, because we are a very small organization. We are almost entirely run by volunteers, and our build chair is a volunteer, and he lives in Yellowknife, and he devotes a lot of time towards the builds. But obviously, with the location, it's important for us to have a liaison in the community who kind of can help connect us with business people, connect us with contractors, that sort of thing, provide updates to council. Now we have a liaison in Hay River who is a retired city councillor, and also a business owner in the community. But should council decide that this is something they're interested in, then that's something that we could provide more info about. So that's essentially the top three things that we're hoping to have with a community that we partner with. There's lots of other information, some of which was provided in the letter, but I know you probably have a packed meeting tonight, but I just wanted to stop there and ask if there were any initial questions about Habitat and the eligibility and kind of what we ask of the municipality.
Councilor McDonald?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess my main area of concern is the qualification or what is required to be eligible for this program, and how difficult or easy that process would be for residents to access.
Great. Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So we are an affiliate of Habitat Canada. And so as such, we follow their similar criteria guidelines. So some things that a family would need to be eligible is we have put a priority on families who have children under 18 living at home. So one of the criteria is that the applicant has at least one child under 18 that lives at home with them. Also that their current housing does not meet their needs. That could be anything from that it's currently unaffordable, that it's too small for their family size, or that there are health and safety concerns in the home. So it could be mold, it could be that the house is cold, it's not up to a standard of living that's suitable for them. Also, that the family is currently spending 30% or more of their income on current housing needs. And that another one is that there is at least one adult in the home that's employed full-time, because it's a program for working families who just kind of need that extra hand up, and not a hand out is kind of how Habitat phrases it. So one adult employed year-round, and also that they pass a credit check. So those are the basic criteria. Again, those are primarily set by Habitat Canada. We do have a little bit of wiggle room within our affiliate with that, but that's generally the criteria. Did that answer your question, or was there more information that you'd like?
Yeah, I guess on the 30%, is that all inclusive, like including utilities, et cetera? Is that solely rent?
Yes. So that they're spending more than 30% of their gross income on their housing costs. So that includes rent, utilities, yeah.
Okay, so based on that, then there's no cap on total income. It's just
There
solely
is, yes. So there is a cap. There is I believe our criteria is a maximum of $97,000 annually.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Councilor Campbell?
Yeah, thanks for coming to us here. For this building and that, for the plumbers and everything, do they get this all handed to them after, or do they have to go get this mortgage for the house? Like for the cost of the plumbing and material and all that, like a regular building a house?
So I'm sorry, does the family get the house afterwards? Was that just to clarify the question?
No, my question was about a mortgage. Like you say, they have to be pre-approved for credit. Do they?
Right.
To get this house at the end, do they get a mortgage for it, or is it just handed over to them?
So they get a mortgage. Their mortgage is with Habitat for Humanity. So their mortgage would be with us, and it's a zero interest mortgage. So one of the benefits is, so essentially in lieu of a down payment, because that's what we find with most families who apply to be homeowners, they are making a decent income. They are living in substandard housing, but the thing that is most difficult to be able to afford a home is that initial down payment. So, often people put 5 to 10% down. That's just not possible for a lot of the families that are looking to own a home. So to make it affordable for people, they work for 500 hours volunteer work. We call it sweat equity. They can do that within the community. Their friends and family can help them earn that. But essentially, once they complete that 500 sweat equity hours, they enter into a mortgage agreement with Habitat for Humanity. And then all of their payments that they make on their mortgage, we put into a revolving fund and we reinvest the proceeds into our next build.
Anyone else have questions? Okay, thank you. So what is it that you're looking for us specifically?
Well, I spoke with, I believe it was Emily previously, and we're right now just looking to see if the committee or council is interested in being considered as the next community for Habitat to build in. We are currently in discussions with 2 other communities, both of whom have expressed interest in having a Habitat build there. So essentially, we just want to know from you if this is something that you're interested in having in your community, and if you think that of those 3 things that I noted that we are looking for in the community that we build in, if you feel like you're in a position to be able to provide that.
Okay, thank you. When do you need to know our interest by? Is there a
We-
timeline?
Well, we have our next board meeting is in September on just let me double confirm the date here. Our next board meeting is the 20th of September. So the board will be discussing it at that date.
Council Kissinger?
Okay, so at when you decide, okay, we're interested, and you make a decision and you choose the community, say it happens to be Fort Smith, and we donate a lot, you don't know who is going to receive the housing unit yet. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes. So we would then go through the process of, we have a staff member who helps to advertise for that, does information sessions in the community for people who might be interested, and then helps applicants through the application process. But at the time of when we decide the community, it's a pretty involved process. So it will be another several months until we would have the family selected. And the applications are reviewed by an external committee, and then they make a recommendation to the board. So it would still be some time until the local family is selected.
Okay, just to continue on. So as soon as you know and you start the process, you get the house before the family is selected, and we give you the lot. What happens if you don't find a family to meet the criteria? What happens then?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, then we would probably need to discuss that further. It hasn't been an issue so far, but it's definitely something that has come up amongst the board that may come up. We may need to reissue another call. We may need to help spread the word amongst families that this is a potential, find out what the stumbling block is. Is it that there's not enough family members that are meeting the eligibility criteria? Then, we may need to look at that. Or is it that they may find the application process need some assistance with that? So I don't know the answer 100% because we've never run into it before, but we would obviously try and do everything that we could to find a family that meet the eligibility criteria.
Okay. If there's no other questions, we want to thank you for your presentation, and then we'll get back to you by September, before your board meeting, well before your board meeting.
Okay. Fantastic. If you have any questions that come up in the meantime, then please feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to provide any info.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks so much.
SAO?
So one of the reasons why we brought it forward for this meeting is because in order to get them a response before their board meeting, you basically have to make a decision this month. We can't wait until the September board meeting because our council meeting won't happen in a timely fashion. you might want to just add it to the agenda. You haven't, yeah.
All right, then I need someone to move the agenda.
I move that the agenda be approved as presented.
I need a seconder to approve the agenda as presented.
I will second.
Discussion? SAO? Oh, Council Campbell?
I would like to add on to the agenda, the Habitat for Humanity presentation to say yes, if we're involved or not. Very, very to the point, thanks.
So that, Madam Chair, would come as 8F.
Okay. 8F? All right. Who moved that? You move the agenda? You, okay. And then the seconder?
Yes, I'll second that.
All right, so then the agenda is approved as amended. All in favor? Okay. So in our meeting package for us to review was the agenda from our last meeting. Minutes from our last meeting and the community service master plan. So those are for you guys to review. So now we'll go on to the director's reports and I'll go SAO.
Thank you. I am going to pass this on to the Director of Community Services, but I just wanted to say we're coming to the end of our summer season. So thank you to all the staff who've been out running extra programming, our summer camp staff, and our community services staff that moved over to facility maintenance to help out with mowing. So we had a lot of staff on the go this summer. But I'll hand it over to Mrs. Clucci.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, big shout out to all the staff. It's been a really busy summer. We're struggling with maintaining a full staff, just like many other workplaces. So we've been doing the best that we can to keep everything open and running and trying to get those programs out there to add to the community. So huge shout out to the staff that are showing up every day to do that. We've had a busy month. Lots of activity at the rec center, as you can see, and some of the biggest activities are kind of situated around the renovation. There's been a lot going on lately. The daycare space is finished and open as a daycare now. The air conditioner is working in a portion of the building, so now it's not insanely hot in there anymore. They are continuing working in the seniors room and the public washroom on the main floor. So there's been a lot of activity going on and we're working around all of it. So it's really exciting to see. The front desk, if you come in, is a very, very new and different looking. So come and check it out if you have the chance. It is huge. The front desk is now enormous. So come and check it out. The library, as the daycare moved out of the library space, they have built all the shelves and are getting those into place. We're just waiting on the front desk up there for circulation. And we've now closed the library and are starting the process of getting things packed up and we'll be moving over the coming weeks. So there's a lot of change happening all at once. We're really excited to get opened up and have the community be welcomed into the building again. We're still running full in the daycare. So we have a very large waiting list. Summer camp has been hugely successful. We've been close to full every week. I've been doing lots of cool programming, doing field trips, having guests come in. So it was really nice to have that back. We've been running the water bouncy castle in lieu of a splash pad. I know that we don't have one at this point. I know it's like it's like a swear word to Cynthia at this point, but we've been running the bouncy castle out and we've had so many happy community members come up to us and say that they've really been enjoying it with the heat arriving. So I've loved it every time I've seen them. It's been busy, and it's really great to see that, especially because it's not always easy to get somewhere to swim. So it's good to be able to cool off. We're running into, as we come into September, our daycare and after school programs are already fully enrolled with large waiting lists. So there's, there are a lot of kids who can't get in the program at this point that need to, but so it is very, very busy at this point. And that's about it for the rec center. If we come over to the library, we were kind of getting into winding down in July. We had some regular programming going on Tuesdays, typically for kids programming, and encouraging people to get ready for the close and take out extra books and not have any late. There's no late notifications. We were encouraging people to take home as many books as they could, so then they could move them to the new library for us. We just want them to enjoy the books for as long as they can. So it was great. The staff worked really, really hard in preparation for this move behind the scenes, weeding through the collection and trying to get all the supplies they'll need to move the actual books over, and having staff come in from the NWT library staff come in, so they'll help with the move and the setup. So it's been a lot of work behind the scenes, and I hope it pays off when everyone gets to come in and see our new beautiful library. So that's it.
SAO?
Yeah, I just want to touch base about a couple of things. We will be looking to bring you some information on extending our daycare spaces to include our 6 infant spaces. So that will be a change in level of service, because I think you had only approved staffing for the 2 to 5-year-old group, 2 to 6-year-old group. So it's 1 to 3 ratio for infants. So we'll have 3 additional staff. So we'll bring that to you probably in September. I know that ECE wants us to get those spaces open. And again, as the director said, we have a lengthy wait list. So hopefully the Métis daycare will open soon and they can have our wait list, because we have wait lists for both preschool and after school care. And I know they were planning to run both 2 to 5-year-olds and after school care at the Métis. So hopefully they'll be able to fill their spaces with our wait list. And that doesn't even include the college students who are coming in and will need childcare and new teachers and all of those things, right? With the library, yeah. So if you haven't had a chance to go over to the rec center and peek at the new library, please do so. It looks beautiful. As the director said, the NWT Library Services staff, there's 2 staff members here. They're going to help arrange the bookshelves and the collection in a way that will be most efficient. If you've got any boxes that are about this big, that are very sturdy, and you'd like to drop them off at the library, we'll take those, because we need to pack all those books up and get them moved over. So it's very exciting times to see that significant part of the building getting done. I think that was it for that section. We're going to have an update on the pool after, so we'll talk about the pool. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Council Campbell?
No, not this one.
All right, thank you. Then moving on for the Director's Report, Economic Development, SEO.
I'll hand that over to Mrs. Kluge.
So July saw the Pine Lake Picnic, which is usually one of the biggest events that our staff take part in conjunction with the staff from Wood Buffalo National Park. So they had over 100 visitors this year. And I think it's the first Pine Lake Picnic that's run in it's been absent for 2 years, I think. And so this is the the third year now. So it was nice to see that back up and running because that's been a long-standing tradition for well over 30 years now, I think. And they're seeing fairly moderate numbers of visitors at the visitor center, so higher than last year, and some international travelers as well, which is nice to see. We're working on our radio the cabin radio advertising, so we're using that to get information out about Paddle Fest. The event's over now, but this is what we were advertising, and the Dark Sky Festival as well. Our Mystery Town tour we're in the testing phase now, so we're almost there, when we'll be able to share with everybody when it's ready. The EDO has been working on the website redesign and refresh, and the Town of Fort Smith brand refresh as well. So that'll be an ongoing project for the next little while. The signage and amenities has been completed in their engineering designs at this point, from IBI Group. So now we're going to be working on content, and the advisory board is heavily involved in that side of it. Our welcome bags are pretty much ready to go. We're just waiting on a few more things from local businesses. There will be a career fair, services and career fair coming up in September at Aurora College. So we'll have a booth set up there as a Town of Fort Smith. Our climate change and energy projects are still ongoing, and we have the RFP has closed for the climate change adaptation plan. And that'll be our next big project that we're working through. With the housing plan, we were unable to hire anyone in the community coordinator position at this point. So we'll be thinking through some other strategies around that. And we are in talks with NWT Housing to see what they kind of want to do with that as well. And the small community employment support program has been fully spent at this point, so we were able to give that out to 13 applicants within the town, and it's just over $180,000 that's gone into local businesses. And then the labor market development plan is something that we'll be continuing to work on, and then you'll see more coming from us from the fall and winter.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions about the director's report? Council Campbell?
Okay, the climate change adaptation plan, what's that entail again?
Sale?
So we received funding, external funding, to do a climate change adaptation plan, which is really one of the plans they want to see communities have. It will help us to access some additional funding, so it's completely externally funded. So we put out an RFP for someone to work with our climate change champion, AJ James, to help develop a plan for the community. That RFP closed. It was within my spending authority to award it, so it was awarded to a company from the Yukon. They hopefully will be getting started on that fairly soon. And we'll have some climate change stuff. So really some of the things like that and the energy plan are things we really need to start accessing some of this green funding.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. So moving on the agenda, all the advisory boards have been not active during the summer. There's nothing for bylaw policy and review and development. So I'm going on to administration. SEO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the first item is more of an informational item. As you know, there is a lifeguard shortage across the country. And because of our limited ability to run any programming during the entire period of COVID, we have been trying to play catch up for the last several months in regards to getting staff ready to come in and become lifeguards. One of the biggest issues is that because of all shorter closures of the pool, many of our young people stopped swimming. and that negatively impacts the whole developmental process for lifeguards. So we've got a lot of 12, 13, 14-year-olds who could be entering into the training who just aren't there. They don't want to do it. They've chosen to work at somewhere else. So we've been doing some training. We've had minimal staff available. We only had 2 of our student-aged, high school-aged lifeguards around for the summer, as well as 1 adult lifeguard who was able to do morning swims for us, and then our lead guard who is covering the program coordinator position for recreation and special events. So this has left us very short, especially with our previous program coordinator leaving us to go back to teaching. I hope he's watching. But we're definitely shorthanded, and so what's happening is our lead lifeguard is going out for training, and that's going to leave us even shorter, especially for our daytime swims. And so you'll see attached there is a tentative schedule of what we're going to be able to manage for the fall until we get some more staff trained. It's quite a bit less than what we would normally offer. It's disappointing. It's not what we want. We're looking at ways to have Matthew in the pool more by providing him more support on the recreation side, but there is a cost to that we may have to look at. We'll bring that to you as we kind of figure out who's going to be in which jobs at the end of the summer, because we often lose some of our staff because they're grade 12 students who are going off to university or college at the end of the summer. So we're just sort of still playing with our staff complement to make sure we've got all the positions filled and see how we can support Matthew to be in the pool a bit more. I will say that we have one of our visitor services staffs enjoys working for the town so much he's decided to take the lifeguard training, and he's a graduate, so he'll be, if he passes the training, then he'll be available during the day, which is very exciting. You love working for the town when you take on a whole different job. So that'll be exciting to see. So we're really hoping to get this dealt with as soon as possible. We are moving part of this will be we're moving the pool shutdown to October, partly because we will then be able to, we have to close down the front area of the rec center for part of the renovation to do the flooring and the last bits of things. So we're gonna do those at the same time. Pool shut down and the recreation center shut down to finish the flooring, so that we don't shut down twice. And the only thing will be accessible in the building at that point will be childcare. So this is really, you guys can make a motion to agree to this change of level of service, but we don't really have a choice at this point.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilor Campbell?
Okay, for the pool tie-ins and all this stuff, the flooring, and how long do they anticipate it to be? Like total shutdown, like except for the daycare?
Asio?
I believe they're looking at a minimum of a week. The stairs all need to get done, the hallway, the whole front lobby. There was something else, but I can't think of what it is right now. Sorry. So they're anticipating a minimum of a week.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mayor Daniels?
Yeah, speaking of the swimming pool, where are we with that generating system there? Did we deal with it, or?
SAO?
I will just give you to Mrs. Clucci because she's heading up this project.
Yeah, so I have, it's been awarded to TAG, and so the engineer is going to actually be in the community tomorrow. And if I can catch him between flights, he's going to come on site so he can do an inspection and we can have a startup meeting to keep moving forward with that project. So it's going, it's happening, and we're going to make sure that we can at least get them on site so that they can see it, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, no, it's fall coming and I'm still pushing the agenda forward to knock everything I possibly could on this.
Thank you. Councilor McDonald?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, yeah, I recognize that staffing is a challenge everywhere. um, As you can see by the shortages in local businesses all across the community. Um, Have you given any thought to a strategy and how you may be able to attract some of the young folks back to the program or attract other community members into the lifeguarding program?
Aseo?
So we definitely have talked about we've done some advertising. We've offered some free courses. So normally your lifeguarding courses cost, I think the bronze medallion's like $250 or something. Is that correct? It's more now. We raised it. Of course, we made it more expensive. But I believe our last set, we offered it for all free to try and get that people into that training. One of our biggest barriers is that the JBT swim program has greatly been cut. And so we used to see those kids and identify those kids very early on in their swim careers. But because we don't have that, we missed that. So one of the projects that we're going to be working on is getting our junior lifeguarding program back up and running. So that would be for kids usually around 9 to about 13, 14, because they can start coming to work for us when they're 15. So we want those young people to start developing some of those first aid and lifeguard skills. Junior Lifeguard Club is actually considered a sport. So there are competitions that you can go to. We could go to Alberta for competition and make it sort of a fun, back to being a developmental program. Having lost our swim team, that's been a bit of a loss because we did see quite a few of our kids come out of our swim team program. Lots of family groups. Basically, if your sibling has worked for the pool, you are required to work at the pool. It's like a thing. Like whole families of teenagers who've worked for the pool. So I think, Mrs. Clucci, are there any other, did I capture it all?
Yeah, and we've been advertising across the country as well. So we've been going to the open forums. We've gone to the Life Saving Society. We have personally contacted every other pool in the NWT to see if there's any lifeguards or if they know of anybody that may be in this community. We've reached out just by word of mouth to people. We've tried a lot of different avenues, and that's how we came up with finally finding someone who's like, yeah, I'll take that training, sure. I could be available full time. So we're just trying to make it's still going to take a lot of effort to get there for people to become a lifeguard if they want to do it, but we're trying to take away the financial burden of it. And so far we've been able to do that. So we've offered free bronze medallion so far, and then a free first aid course. When Matthew is back from his training, he will offer another bronze medallion and then do the bronze cross, all for free. And then the pool shutdown will happen. He'll be able to run the NL in November. So it puts us on track to have lifeguards following that point.
Thank you. Aseo?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that it does impact our revenue in the pool because we are not going to be able to, we need to get this done. We need to make this as accessible for people as possible. Somebody who might not normally think it's something for them. And we need to be able to get those young people and some adults in the pool. So we might be holding some free swims for people who are going to be signing up for courses and things like that. One of the biggest issues, I think, and I think it's across the board, and council will have to be considering this as we move towards, collective bargaining and things, is that people aren't relocating to the NWT anymore because the salary gap is closing. So people in the South are not making significantly less than they are in the NWT as we used to be. Many people moved here in, 15, 20, 30 years ago because there was a big gap in salary. You could come to the NWT, lower cost for housing, bigger salaries, and that's just not the case. There are a lot of places, because of shortages for teachers and shortages for nurses and doctors and trained tradespeople and counselors and all of those things, people aren't relocating north anymore at the same rate that they used to be. So, and that goes to the same for things like lifeguards. This is a career for some people, but if they're not going to come to the NWT and make more money in a place with less conveniences than they might in a southern community, then it's not gonna be as attractive, especially considering we have no housing.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell?
Okay, question here. With all these lifeguards leaving us, is there a reason why they're leaving us, or do we have a problem with anything going on at the pool or anything?
SAO?
Our biggest issue is they graduate. We get lifeguards, we get kids that come to work for us when they're 15, and then as soon as they're done done high school, they go off to post-secondary, and then they come back to GNWT jobs because the GNWT always pays a little bit more than we do. So when they come back for their summer jobs, they're going to the fire base, or they're going to Lands, or they're going to MACA, and we're losing out on that. And they don't keep up their certification when they're south, because many of our young people don't need to have jobs when they're down at their post-secondary. So they don't keep their certifications up. They don't swim, and they're not ready to come back and be recertified.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Curl?
Just wondering, it ties in with Councillor Campbell. Have you surveyed previous and current staff to see what may be some issues that may, if they've talked with their friends, that type of thing, of what we can maybe look at doing?
SAO?
We've talked to previous staff about coming back this year, when we were at the beginning of the season trying to find staff, and did not have any luck because they all had GNWT jobs. And we can't offer full-time jobs to returning students because we have students that are here who also want those hours, right? So we have high school students who may or may not want full-time hours during the summer, but then they go off on holidays, and we can't offer enough hours to those college and university students coming back to give them full-time employment for the 3 or 4 months that they're back. So it's kind of a catch-22. Even if they wanted to work for us, we can't offer them the hours. Sure.
Go ahead.
She has another question.
Oh, Councillor Curl.
Well, and tying into that is, if you've looked at staffing from previous years, like going back 5-10 years, we always had university students coming back, and that was their full-time job, as well as the summer students, because there was always a robust number of pool attendance there. So I'm wondering what the drawback is, or why we can't enable and offer enough hours for these students.
SAO?
I can say that I've worked for the town of Fort Smith in the recreation department for 9 years, and that is not actually the case. We do not have college students coming back and working. We often have 1 or 2 people who are part-time or full-time during the school year. We've had some staff who've done that, but once they've graduated from post-secondary or graduated or gone on to post-secondary, during their gap time, they might stay and work for us, but that is not the case. We don't have, over the last 9 years that I've worked for the town, have we had college and university students coming back to full-time jobs. That's just not the case.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell?
Okay, my question here this time. We are losing all these lifeguards, and we always say we have people coming up through the ranks. How come we are not having anybody come up through the junior lifeguard or any of the ranks? We've got no kids anywhere coming up we could see potential in 6 months, 3 months, or anything? How come we have nobody interested in any of these positions?
SAO?
The biggest issue is we haven't been able to do the training. So we've got 2 junior lifeguards. Sorry, we've got 3 junior lifeguards, one of whom was away all summer on family holiday. So we have 3 junior lifeguards. 2 of them will be, they're all going to be 16 by the fall when we run the National Lifeguard. And they've all taken the course, so they need to test for it. That's a little bit secretive. Don't talk about that. So you have to be 16 to pass the course. You can't pass the course until you're 16. Then we had 5 students on the last bronze medallion. We've had some additional young people who took the first aid who didn't take the bronze medallion. So there's another group of there. So we should have somewhere between 5 and 10 youth that will either come on as junior lifeguards or will come on or they will be old enough to roll right into the National Lifeguard Program. What we don't want to do is put people on the deck as lifeguards before they've spent some time training in our facility. So just because you pass the course doesn't mean you meet our minimum standards. There's a minimum standard to pass the course nationally, but each facility sets their own standard for safety. based on the way the facility's developed and built, right? Like blind spots and amenities and all those sorts of things. So what we're seeing is we want to have those 5 to 10 young people come in and be done their bronze medallion, done their bronze cross, which is the minimum 15. You've got to be 15, have your bronze cross, and have your first aid to be employed in the pool. But again, because we had basically 2.5 years where we couldn't run any programming, we couldn't get those kids ready to go. So now many of them are already 15 or 16, and we're starting to run programming again. So if we had been running programming, they would have been ready to come and work for us at 15, had some time as junior lifeguards, and then when they were 16, they would have gone on to the National Lifeguard course. But because we haven't been able to do that, we've got a group of 15, 16-year-olds who, when they were 14, we were like, oh, those are the kids, the next group. But we couldn't offer them programming.
Councillor Curl?
I was wondering if there's ever been discussion with the high school for their curriculum, if they can have a swimming as part of their, where they could earn credits, and if that might be something that might be more of an incentive to draw in some of the children.
SAO?
So we did run several years ago bronze medallion and bronze cross with one of the phys ed classes at the high school. So that was their, I think they came twice a week, was part of their phys ed curriculum. The biggest problem is their attendance was not good. So by the time we were done that and we put a fair amount of time into that as part of their credit, I think we passed 2 of the grade 11 students who were in that course because their attendance was just so poor. I think Councillor Ferguson, your son might have been in that group, or was in the year after. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, so we had that as a free course through their curriculum in conjunction with a phys ed teacher, and we just didn't get anybody out of it because they just didn't come.
Councillor Campbell?
Well, we have to do something, like, I like the idea of it, if they could put it into the school curriculum, and if we get 1 out of 10, it's anything better than what we have now. Just, I don't know, we have to do something drastic and work with the schools, work with everybody, not just say we tried it once before and it's not going to work again. We don't know if it's going to work again. We have to give it I think we have to give it a good shot, and let's try it once more. Anything good. Thanks.
SAO?
Again, as I said, we're going to have probably 5 to 10 by the end of this calendar year, new staff trained, which it will be more than adequate. We actually don't have 10 jobs because we have to give them a minimum number of hours so that they'll stay on the books. And it is a very significant amount of time investment to run one of these programs because you have to do a fair amount of prep before each session. So if we're going to do that with the school, it takes a bit of time to prep it. So we wouldn't be able to do that this semester. We may be able to approach the phys ed teacher for next semester. But it's very challenging. It's very challenging to do it if only 2 people show up. You can't do the types of rescues that are required in these courses if only 2 people show up for class. You can't teach it. It's very challenging. It's like running a hockey practice with 3 kids.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's go on to the next. My agenda closed. Whatever B was now. Okay, the variance report was in ours to review. And I guess, is there any questions on that variance report or administration?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out the biggest issues are the cost of heating have gone up so dramatically that we're pretty much blowing those budgets by halfway through. But you'll see many of our materials and supplies and I shouldn't say as much as our materials and supplies as our building and equipment repair and maintenances are also very close to being overspent because everything is just costing more. Everything where our team anticipates it should be this much for this piece of equipment repair, it's just going up dramatically. I did have a section in there about the high expense for heating for the pool and the CRC. And so in our staff did their investigation, and really what happened was that the Public Works, GNWT Public Works was turning over to the fuel boiler and not letting us know. So we anticipate we're paying for pellet heat, and what we're mostly paying for is fuel heat. And as a result, it's significantly higher, and they don't notify us of that. So, but yes, it is metered. So they know how much we're using versus the high school. We're not paying the high school share, but it's just more because they're using more fuel heat rather than biomass, which is one of the reasons why exploring whether or not we want to find an alternative heating system for the rec center that we can control might be of value.
Any discussion on the variance report? Councilor McDonald?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So after reviewing this, I know, like you had mentioned, there's a significant shortfall projected for heating oil, gasoline, etc. And I guess my question is, are you planning as to how you're going to cover that shortfall? Where within your budget are you going to find those dollars to cover the difference, or are you giving any consideration to requesting a supplemental budget increase from the mayor and council?
SAO?
So we're trying not to ask for additional funds. We're trying to work within the grand scheme of funds that you've given us. So, you know, if there are places at this point where we can save funds, like in materials and supplies in some sections, then we're trying to do that. I think the biggest thing is we don't want to ask for additional dollars, although we do have a reserve. And typically we, after the audit, we have a, oh my God, we have a surplus typically after the audit. So we're hoping that if we can keep our spending reasonable for the rest of the year, if we can really tighten our belts, but that might mean that some things get put off until next year, at which point we're going to have to think about that for the next budget. Is that, you know, we have been working with basically the same numbers for the years, and we're now going to have to start thinking about whether or not we need to increase some of these numbers, right? Fuel and gas we've been increasing, but things like building repairs, equipment repairs, materials and supplies, we haven't increased those numbers in a number of years. And council may have to think about whether or not that's the next step in our next budget.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor McDonald?
I also noticed that in a few areas, the revenues are down somewhat from what the projections were. And with the arena currently not functioning and potentially not functioning, I don't know if we have any kind of an update on when it may be available for service, but that again will impact the revenue of another facility. And I know the impact of the rec center because of the renovations, et cetera, are all going to impact the bottom line for this year, I guess. And I just wanted to ensure that we're conscious of that and that we're prepared to make the potentially tough decisions that will come from those lost revenues and our increasing O&M costs. Thank you.
And then our SAO?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, those are, and that's part of our tough decisions too, is making sure that we're spending as responsibly as we possibly can with this, you know, really tightening it up. But I think that Councillor McDonald is correct. We may have to come. The Director of Municipal or Corporate Services and I will be reviewing the budget, starting our budget review when he's returning from leave in September. So we may be asking for something before the end of the fiscal year, but we're hoping to not. But it is a possibility.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Mayor Daniels?
Yeah, just coming up to this budget this year, and that I think council should think about putting out a standing offer on everything. Our maintenance, whatever it is. From economic side, you should probably take a look at maybe doing some number crunching there on biomass for the rec, other places. I know we can't go through electrical because that's just an old myth. Yeah, so we should do some number crunching there. I know over the year, last 8 months here, taking on the winter aspect of it was see a lot of increase in our fuel in that, and probably COVID or whatever everyone else is blaming them. But yeah, I wouldn't mind to come out with a standing offer this time. I'm not sure if the town has ever been there before, but it's somewhere that I think that we should seriously take a look at on standing offers. So yeah, that and that biomass there, if we could come up with some numbers, probably economic could head that off along with the greener house. Alex, okay, not Alexa this time. So yeah, maybe two of them to work it out or something. But yeah, we should have something of that for council and take a crack at it. So thanks.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion about the variance report? Okay, then going on. Oh, sorry.
I move that we accept the variance report as presented. Second quarter variant.
I'll second that.
Hey, any discussion? Councilor Pissinger. Any discussion? All in favor? All right. Okay, so no, moving on to the next item on the agenda, the appointment of deputy mayor. Oh, is that not on my, it is. Sorry. Okay. So is this just a discussion? SAO?
So council does have to have a deputy mayor. It's sad to be having to move quickly into this discussion, but this discussion around who will be deputy mayor as well as filling the vacant seat do have to happen. Deputy mayor acts on behalf of the mayor. He's the second, or he or she are the second person we call for signing when the mayor's not available. I think Councillor Tuckey is our other signing authority. So we do need a third signing authority, and that would typically be the deputy mayor. So I guess it would be call for nominations.
All right, call for nominations. Councillor Crowell,
I would like to put forward Councillor Jay McDonald as a potential candidate for deputy mayor.
seconder. We need a seconder. I need a seconder. We can't talk about it unless I have a seconder. Yeah.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
I would just call for all of your nominees.
Oh, another,
If there's a second nominee.
is there a second nominee for deputy mayor?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Campbell.
I'll second that.
Is there another call for a nomination for deputy mayor?
You can only vote for one, then, Councillor Bushman. You can second as many as you want, but you can only vote for one.
All right, so there's two nominations on the floor. Do we have to ask you if you want to be nominated? So, Councillor McDonald, do you want to be nominated for deputy
Yes, I accept.
mayor? Councillor Campbell, do you accept?
Oh, yes.
So I've never done a vote like this before, so I'll just start with one and go with the other. Is that how we do this?
It's,
Is it private?
yeah.
It's a ballot?
Ballot vote, sorry.
And you got a hat?
We'll just let the director of Community Services vote.
Sure.
That's okay.
Does that seem fine for all? Put all the names in a hat and then they get counted?
Councillor Kroll, do you want to text me your vote? Sure. I guess maybe you should give either candidate an opportunity to say.
Oh. Would either candidate like to say something?
Slower than that.
Okay, Councillor McDonald, go. Okay, go, Councillor McDonald. Campbell, I'm staring at you and saying that. Go ahead.
Okay, I think I'll be good for the job. And I know all what's happening with all the town procedures and everything going on right now. Are this all going live? Okay. And I feel I could do a good job for the community of Fort Smith and all the residents here and everything. And I work good with all the community governments. And I'll keep you guys all informed. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Councillor Campbell and Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so I think I'm a good candidate for this position. I've put a lot of time and effort into the council and the committees and the different parts of the town organization up until now since I've been elected. I bring a solid background in organization, in leadership, as well as in logistics. So I think these are all qualities that would make me a good deputy mayor. And I look forward to the opportunity if I'm so lucky as to be chosen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. SEO?
And so you would normally select a deputy mayor every year. You don't hold the position for the whole 3 years. It normally would happen in November. Council may wish to just make this the person that they're, so it's for the whole rest of the year. And then next November, we would have our third vote for deputy mayor. So that would have to be that this would be until November 2023 would be part of the motion.
Okay, understood. Who made the motion?
Nobody's made a motion
Okay,
yet, but when you
okay,
guys start
okay.
talking about this, make sure you're aware that this person would serve. I think it makes most sense to allow this person to serve for that whole year and a couple of months, right?
Okay. So everyone just write your name on the piece of paper and then we'll come bring it to Emily. She'll come around. Okay. Well, after this. Oh, really? Maybe next time I'll be interested. I just had too much on the go at this time to be really good at it. Okay. All right, the votes are in and Councillor McDonald has been elected the new deputy mayor. I need someone to make a recommendation that Councillor McDonald be the next deputy mayor till November 2023. Be appointed deputy mayor until 2023. Someone can make that motion, please.
I'd like to make the motion that Councillor McDonald be deputy mayor until November 2023.
And a seconder? Discussion? All in favor? Okay, motion carried. The next on our agenda was then the vacancy of council. SAO.
Thank you. Again, not my favorite discussion to be having. We do have to have a discussion about the vacant seat though, and how council would like to move forward on that. We have a couple of options. I think I won't, actually, I'm not going to say that. That's an opinion. I'm not going to say that. Council can choose to leave the seat vacant. You have to have a minimum. So we have 9 seats of council, including the mayor. We have to have a minimum of 5 seats filled. So you could leave that seat vacant. However, when you leave a seat vacant, it's harder to get quorum, right? Because we still have to have 5. You still have to have more than half. So it's sometimes harder when you only have 8 people to draw from to get 5 people versus 9 people to get 5 people. But so that is a choice. If you choose to fill the seat, you could go back to the previous municipal election and draw on the next person in line for the number of votes. But given that we're coming up to a year, that might feel a little bit dated. And those people may no longer be interested. And then if you start going through the list, you might find that that's really not somebody that people wanted to represent them. Or you can call a by-election.
Councillor McDonald?
So the cost associated with the by-election would be roughly,
SAO?
I would imagine it would be about $5,000 because we're not going to have as many. We shouldn't need as many polling stations. I could be wrong. I'll have to really go back and also have to see if Margot's interested in running a by-election. But I anticipate it'll be less because we're not electing as many people. We're not doing DEA.
Councillor McDonald?
so I know we've never done like an electronic ballot before, but I did notice that recently they did it in Betchico and they also did it, I believe, in Yellowknife for a seat there. Is it possible we could explore that option to see if that potentially could, you know, maybe reduce the cost? Maybe it doesn't reduce the cost, I don't know, but it may be an option to make things a little bit easier. That's of course assuming that that's the choice that we're going to make, but I don't know.
SAO?
Yeah, I can certainly follow up with MACA in regards to what our requirements legally in regards to an electronic ballot, and then what the cost of setting that up is. Kind of hoping it's a survey.
All right. And any other for this?
I mean, then logistically, it's about setting your date for nominations to open and close, and then setting your polling date and your early polling. So all of this will have to go to MACA's legal department to make sure that because they set up our calendar for municipal elections. So we'll have to make sure we go to them and that it meets all of the requirements under the Elections Act.
When do we need to have these answers by?
That depends on how fast you want to fill the seat.
Councillor McDonald?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think I'm in favor of leaving the seat vacant. I mean, especially in the summertime that people are traveling, et cetera, it's hard to get quorum. And we do have 2 years left, 2 years and a bit left. So I would be in favor in proceeding with us I don't know what the direction council feels is best, but in moving forward with filling the vacancy.
Is that a motion that you want to put on the floor? Oh, no? SAO?
I think you can certainly, I just wanted to bring this to you and you could table it to next community services for your thoughts and consideration. If I have a sense of where you think you want to go, then I can put the time into exploring those options and costs. You know, whether it's through by-election or through just appointing the next person, although I think the next most votes no longer is in the community. So,
Councillor Tucky?
Well, I totally agree with Councillor McDonald. So I'm just wondering, what options are we looking at? Are we looking at ruling out the next in line? Are we going for the electronic, or have we decided which way we actually want to go?
SAO?
I think what council might want to just decide today is whether or not you want to fill the seat or not. And then I can bring you more information about the two ways that you can do that and the costs associated with an election, or whether or not we can do an electronic vote.
It's Diana.
Mhm. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I would like to make a motion that council move forward with filling the vacant seat, reluctantly, of course. And if we could explore the options available to us, please.
I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion then? You're going to come back to us with our options?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Yes.
Motion carried. Okay, moving on the agenda, the next is a briefing note in regards to the firewood donation request. Fireweed Music Festival. SAO?
Yeah, sorry. My computer just shut itself off. No, I'm going to actually pass that over to the director because this is her briefing note.
Yeah, so we were approached and received a letter requesting the donation of things like the bouncy castle and the prizes that would be passes to the rec center, rentals and things like that. So Jolene Burke came to us with this to start up another music festival in the community. She's working with the museum. And these are things that she's trying to add to the event. She has a lot of vendors. She's got musicians booked already. It's happening this weekend, so it is really soon. The cost of what she's asking for is $1,018, and there is $1,577 remaining in the donation budget currently. So discuss that.
SAO?
So I just wanted to put out there that it's a games year. So you will probably get some requests for donations from young athletes going to AWG or CWG. Now those are in the new fiscal year, but those kids are going to have to start fundraising fairly quickly. So you might get some requests during this fiscal year. There is, I believe, outstanding a request for additional funds from the ball tournament for prizes as well. There will be the seniors dinner, the single parent dinner at Sutherland House, and those are just the known ones. So with only $1,500 left in the budget, you're very tight at this point. We are also giving them $2,500 from our music festival fund. So we have $2,500 allocated for a music festival. The museum has applied for that, and I've approved that to be paid out to the museum as a partner because it does have to go to an established organization. It can't go to an individual. So you already are donating $2,500 to the event, plus all of our in-kind donations. We do have swag we could share with them if you feel like this is maybe not financially something you can support or only partially support. We have some really nice swag that we've been racking up that we could share, but just this, so those are the other places where you're providing stuff. I think we're giving them in-kind tables. No porta potties? Oh, good. Okay, perfect.
All right, Council Campbell.
I move that council approve the donation request submitted by Jolene Burke for the use of the bouncy castle and various CRC passes and equipment rental for the prizes in the amount of $1,018.
I'll second.
Discussion? Oh, Councilor McDonald?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, I think that they've done a really good job of promoting the campground, of encouraging activities out there. I know they've made a lot of investment. They've had some additional activities that were a little less traditional, if you will, that have happened out there. So I think this is a good cause, and I would be in favor of supporting it at some level. I don't know if it's the full amount, but certainly I think the bouncy castle is something that I would support. Anything that's for the kids, to me, is an important thing that we should try and get as many of them engaged in this activity as we can. Thank you.
Councilor Campbell?
Yeah, as it's being held at the campground, but it's for the whole community, and we had to bring some more happiness to this community of something that's happy music. Let's give a good time and everything. Let's give them the full amount. Thanks.
Councilor Crowell?
Seeing as how, I mean, they have done outstanding and it is going to tie in, do we have anything available through either economic development or tourism dollars that we could even put towards this?
Asio?
We do not, because we already allocate all of our, when we apply for our seed funding, we've already pre-allocated it. The funding that we get through to ITI, which is why for the music festival in your budget, there's a $2,500 budget that sits there if there's music festivals happening, so the museum is getting that amount, but that's all we have. The bouncy castle setup, supervision, and takedown, that does not necessarily, we didn't include that in there. So that could be given as just an in-kind. So instead of it coming out of your donation budget, we could just make it a partnership, and we don't, normally if like for these passes and things, what would happen is that money will come out of your donations budget and go into the revenue line for the CRC. But something like the bouncy castles set up to take down supervision, we can just do that as a program partnership, so we can reduce those costs.
Councilor McDonald?
So out of this $1,018, how much is the cost of the bouncy castle?
Community services?
So the bouncy castle is only $200 out of that. The other $818 is the assorted passes. She asked for 3 family monthly punch passes, rental of the gym and foyer with a Nerf gun battle, and a 2-hour arena birthday party rental times 2. So that's the main chunk of the what she's asking for is for prizes.
Councilor McDonald?
So just a little bit of a history question, I guess. So in the past, have we donated this type of passes as a in-kind donation and not taken it out of the budget, or is it always paid for by the donation in a transfer? Thank you.
Asio?
It's always paid for as a transfer because it's a purchase on council's behalf.
Thank you.
Councilor McDonald? Okay. Any other discussion?
I just would like to say that I totally support this. However, that's only going to leave us $500 for a few major things that will be coming up in there. So I don't know if we should maybe look at maybe one Nerf battle, one birthday arena rental, just to try and reduce some of this cost a little bit and still be able to provide almost everything they've asked for.
Councilor Campbell?
No matter what we, if we give them full amount or cut back $500, we're still not gonna have anything to give to anybody else later. It's gonna be right next to nothing. So we might as well give them their full amount, what they're asking for. Like, give the Bounty Castle in kind, and then it'd be $818. Thanks.
Aseo?
I would have to go back and look, and I should have done that beforehand, but you do have a public relations budget. And you could choose to take it, depending on how much is left in your public relations budget, you may choose to move some of that. Oh no, that's gone. Never mind. That's swag. We spent that. I lied. I was gonna say you could move some of your public relations budget to donations for the rest of the year, but we spent that. It's his fault.
Councilor Pishinger?
So you say the town is given the $2,500 for this music festival? Okay. So they're going to use that money. They've gotten, okay, thank you.
Mayor Daniels?
Yeah, perhaps this year, I know it'll be probably what our time that we do budget is, maybe council wants to think ahead. I'm not sure what goes into those budgets. So I think like we should probably bring them up more. I'm not sure what we're dealing with right now, the start of it, but we should increase them over this year, because just off the top of my head, there's a lot of things that there's quite a few things I want to bring in for next year into Smith, and it'll be for the community, right? So I mean, we've worked hard over the last 8 months. You've seen work go out there, but it can't always be work for our community too. It has to be something for our residents, for enjoyment. So perhaps when it comes to number crunching, perhaps we should take a look at that on that number. I'm probably looking at about 30,000 in there. Yeah. So we'll talk about that.
Oh, Aseo?
Again, I'm just trying to problem solve. I see so when we set the budget for events like Frolics and Festival and Paddle Fest, normally we don't provide any additional donation for those events because that is your donation. However, because we didn't do Frolics in its full capacity this year, we may be able to take some of that. I'll have to go back and look, and perhaps in September I'll bring out of this one. So we could move because now that I'm going to go back and look at that motion, because maybe that was supposed to come out of Frolics and it didn't get reallocated. So I will look at that. So we may be able to free up $2,500 additional funds in this budget. And if there's any additional Frolics monies, then we may be able to transfer it into your donations budget this year.
Frolics was supposed to be used for Dawn.
For $2,500,
Yeah.
but Frolics has a $5,000 budget.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The reason the music festival only has $2,500 is because it hasn't been happening. So we want it to be happening consistently before we put a lot more into the budget.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions or discussion about the motion on the floor for donation to the Fireweeds Music Festival?
To draw on from those other funds to supplement.
Yes, I believe so. I think now that I'm thinking about the Dawn Fernstick, I think that finance didn't get the part where it was supposed to go to Frolics. I feel like that might have actually been in the motion. And if not, then we can look at, I'll have to bring that to you for a motion to move some of those funds, those outstanding funds into your
donations budget for the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Councillor McDonald?
Yeah, I just want to say, I agree with Councillor Campbell. I think we should approve the full amount. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion on the floor, and is there any more discussion? All right, so,
Do we have to amend it to 18 or just,
no,
we went 1,018, but in-kind donation will be 200, eh?
okay, so the motion on the floor is gonna stand as it is, and then we're gonna, all right, let's, all in favor? Not in favor? Okay. Okay, all right, then motion carried. Going on to the next thing, I had written down F, but I didn't write down F. Habit, okay. All right, so did we want to put something out on the motion? Okay, Councillor Campbell?
I make a motion that we support Habitat for Humanity to get them to come to Fort Smith here and start the process.
Okay, Councillor Pearl, second, discussion? Or Mayor Daniels?
Yeah, I think we should start looking for a lot, probably next week. I have. We did? Okay, good. Problem solved.
Start addressing our housing situation.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Motion carried. So, the date of the next community service standing meeting will be held on September 13th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Need a recommendation for adjournment? Excusing of council? No one should. Okay, okay. All right, so.
I
need a
move that the meeting be adjourned at 8:42 PM.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Meeting adjourned.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 8:50. Approval of the agenda.
I move that the agenda be adopted as presented.
I'll second that.
Can I add something? Can I add something? Do we have to go? Discussion. Okay, I'd like to add to the agenda cemetery fencing.
Can we discuss that during the capital update instead of adding as an item?
I think we should keep this separate.
Okay.
And also something to do, our roadway, our crack filling, we're not getting that done. I don't know where to add that.
Again, director's update.
Okay,
Date, I don't think we actually had that on the last agenda.
Are these all under 10 or administrative?
anything else for discussion? Are you in favor of the amendment?
Yes, just which numbers are they?
Nine.
What?
G and H.
Um, I move that the agenda be adopted as amended.
I second that.
All in favor? Okay. Okay, going to the minutes of the municipal services standing agreement. They were adopted at the regular meeting. The 2022 capital plan was updated and reviewed. Yes. And any questions about the capital plan?
I can give you a couple of updates if you like, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, in that have just actually come up. So the the Director of Municipal Services just got a sneak peek of the cab of the new truck, sanding truck, and he's super happy and super impressed with it. The water fill station has the work on that has started. They poured concrete, and it was just setting, so we should see more action on that in the next couple of days. So they started that on Monday, I think. We are still waiting to hear back from NTPC about the dig on for the sewer repair on Walters Court. I have let them know that we will be proceeding with that the week of September 5th, and we will be sending them a bill for the full amount. Their belief was they should pay for 25% of our sewer upgrade, infrastructure upgrade, but we're not the ones who put the hole in the sewer. They are. So we'll be billing them. They've been given notice. We've been working, trying to get them to agree to this for a year. So we're just going to bill them. The cemetery, columbarium's in, the fence replacement as per the tender is complete, although the supervisor of facility maintenance who was supervising that project has asked the contractor to come back next summer and do the staining to let the wood cure over the season so that it is prepared to be stained. I have heard some concerns about the fence and will be addressing that to find out what the cost is to finish that up and whether or not that's work we'll do ourselves. Doesn't look as substantial as perhaps we had liked, but maybe if we put a facing on it, like on the other side of the road, the fence along the boardwalk is meant to be the same style, but it has a 2x4 facer at the top, so it looks, the rail looks a little bit more substantial. So we'll look at that. I think, we just met today with the paving team. So they will be starting on the section of Calder that's already closed, where Salt River First Nation project, where they did the water tie-in. So we'll be they'll be starting with pulverizing materials over there. I want to go over and do that. I don't know what pulverizing is, but boy, it sounds fun. So that'll be starting. So between now and mid-October, we'll be seeing various parts of the community being prepped for paving or being paved. They'll be, as crews come off the airport project, then they'll start hitting our roads. So they're prepping first so that they have roads prepped. So as soon as they can, those crews will start paving. The director met with, or is meeting with the contractor to do the theater tomorrow morning. So we should see that up, getting going. We've made it clear to the pavers that we want to make sure that those things do not happen at the same time, so that the building can come down before they start working on that area. And then we'll be looking at the cost of paving that parking lot either this year or next year, because the pavers are actually not leaving and they're keeping the plant here over the next season. I think those are the big ones that had a bit of updates since I put this together for you.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
So one of the things we had talked about, we have greenhouse gas funding, external greenhouse gas funding, to do retrofits of the animal shelter, the Seven Bay, and the water treatment plant in regards to putting the electric heat in. We had paused on that boiler replacement because we were kind of getting a signal from NTPC that they couldn't manage that load. However, upon further investigation and discussion with GNWT Public Works, they actually are required to. So we are going to continue to move ahead because we have that external funding. It's $360,000 of external funding to do that work, to replace, put in the electric boilers and backup high efficiency fuel boiler as well, to continue with that work, because if we put it in, they have to upgrade their infrastructure. It's like a requirement. So they may have been looking to not have to upgrade their infrastructure, and those three particular buildings are within an appropriate distance. Like, they're already where the infrastructure's already been partly upgraded. So some mixed messaging there. So we're going to continue with that project since we have the funding, and then it's going to expire in 2024.
Councilor Pfister?
Okay, so they have to upgrade in that if we put it in, but what are they going to charge us after?
Ms.
What's
White?
the rate? See?
Well, yeah.
They have to get their money back somewhere. They can increase the rates. Unless we have a set rate saying they're going to give us at a certain cost, how do we know we can't afford it later on? We have to look at that too. Is that viable? Do we know what we're going to be paying?
Ms. White?
So part of it is because we will also be looking at, we have the external funding, which will expire, so we can put the infrastructure in and not change over immediately. We would still be putting in high efficiency fuel boilers as backup anyways. So as a roll in for the whole project, we want to use all the external funding that we can on this. And when the funding was applied for, it was those three specific buildings because they had the best access to to the new infrastructure, to the upgraded infrastructure. And our understanding from the GNWT Public Works Department is if we apply to put it in, they have to put it in, and that's just the cost of their doing business. So we would be paying, we would still be paying the rate, whatever the rate is at that time, right? It's not like they can charge us a higher rate for that building. There is a set rate.
Are we going to get in a pissing match over when to install the boilers and when are they going to upgrade their systems? Are we just going to put these boilers in there and let them sit for 10 years without any upgrades coming in? And then it'll cost us more in putting in 2 oil-fired high-efficiency boilers.
Again, we have external funding to cover all these costs, like $360,000. So it seems reasonable to want to spend somebody else's money to do this work.
Yeah, but to leave electric boilers just sitting there, not doing anything, taking out space, to go with a gas-fired or oil-fired boiler, we got to put the same capacity back in as two electric boilers and 2 oil-fired boilers. And then we increase the floor space, we increase everything else. And then we let these 2 boilers sit there for 10, 15 years while the Power Corp upgrades their lines. Ms. White.
Sorry, our understanding from the GNWT Public Works Department is that they are putting in their electric boilers and NTPC is upgrading to their services. And that they have to provide those services. So there is no indication that they'll sit there for an extended period of time. Maybe it'll be a couple of years, but not 10 to 15.
Councilor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the upgrading of the infrastructure, is that mandated through the territorial government, or is that a policy within the Power Corp? Or did the Public Works Department provide any detail on how that whole process works?
Ms. White.
I can send you a communication with a bit more information. The Director of Municipal Services spoke to them, but he was unable to come this evening. So that's a question I can ask him tomorrow, and then I can send you more communication about that. In the very least for these buildings, we have to still, not for the animal shelter, but for the water treatment plant and the 7-bay garage, we're going to have to do engineering for them anyways. So that'll be the first stage, is even getting the engineering done, which is covered through the external funding, is to do the engineering design. So we may, depending on the cost of that, we may not be able to finish the whole project, but we'll have those engineering designs as we move forward, if any additional funding comes available. And it gives us the time to work it all out.
Deputy Mayor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly in favor of going to electric heat. I think it's, good for the environment. There's a lot of plus sides to it, but I'm a little nervous in saying that the Power Corp will follow through, or we have some kind of leverage to ensure that they're going to be forced to follow through to update the infrastructure. So I think it'd be prudent on our part to have some more information on that process, just to ensure that, like Councillor Campbell says, that we're not, putting infrastructure in that we can't essentially use in the who knows what time frames. Thank you.
Councillor Tuckey.
Yeah, I totally agree with Deputy Mayor McDonald. I have to get used to saying that. Now, I'm also concerned about what Councillor Brischner brought up too as well. I'm not sure, I don't run a business or anything like that, where I'm not a high-end user. Does the Power Corp offer discounts for high-end users? Or are they charging the same rate everybody else pays per kilowatt hour.
Ms. White?
So for some of our facilities, we have the fluctuating rate. We have an agreement with the power court to get the lower rates for when there's excess power, we get the lower rate. And then they shift us to the higher rate when they need to.
Do you know what the rates are offhand?
I do not. I would have to go upstairs and grab the document. But I totally understand. I think that if council thinks about this in a couple of ways, that politically you're already pushing them to upgrade our infrastructure. And this sounds like what Public Works does is they make their application, they do their installation, and then NTPC has to provide that service. And I think there's some political power to saying, look, we're making our investment. Now, where's your investment? Right. And I think doing the design stage for those two buildings for the upgrade is the first step to determine what those costs are going to be and whether or not our external funding is sufficient for those costs. And it gives us more time for council to lobby NTPC and get them doing the work in our community and providing the services in our community that our community should be getting, given how close we are to the dam.
Deputy Mayor McDonald?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things that gives us a little bit of leverage in this area is that this lines up with one of the mandates for the current government in the support of climate change. And I think that this is directly related to that and will give us an opportunity to use that as leverage to ensure that we can put that political pressure toward the Power Corp to support this initiative going forward.
Anything else on the? Okay, then we're going to the director report.
Sorry, thank you. And the Director of Municipal Services sends his regrets. He had something else scheduled and didn't feel he would be in good shape to come back. And then apparently his kid crashed her bike. So I'm not sure what the situation is with there. But he provided me with this report for you. Public Works Department, some fire abatement work and bear safety work in the Bell Rock and Carl Drive area has been completed. Flushing continues throughout town. Some road repairs have been taking place in various areas all over town, including crack sealing. So some sections of the community were prepped last year, and then this year those places were crack sealed. It's impossible for us to crack seal every part of the roadway every year. So as we move forward, you will see that they will prep and then they will seal sections. And as part of our asset planning and our work planning, instead of it appearing hodgepodge, sections will get done 1 year. We'll know that in the next however many years that section's got to get done again. And that's the way that will work. So it might be that we do, like this year, Raven Street got done last week. The crack sealing on that, and that was prepped and ready to go, so it was done. But we're not going to be crack sealing every single crack on every roadway. We need to catch up, and we need to have a better system to keep track of that, which is what the director is working on. The bear safety and fire abatement work done, particularly the stuff at Bell Rock. I don't know if anybody's been out there, but we basically widened it all out to the property lines so that there's no brush. We've had some young summer students working for us. I wasn't here when it was at its best, but I'm told that the ditches were done very well. Saplings were taken out of various ditches around town to improve drainage. Places that haven't been done in quite a while have been done. We just got our new tractor the other day, so they've taken the drag mower out to do the flat spots now. So you'll see the drag mower out for the next couple of weeks. The staff are just getting trained on the new tractor, which also is very pretty. Waterworks, pond cleaning for ponds 1 and 2. So we are doing the desludging that should be happening starting in the next few days as well. They're a bit delayed with getting enough liner for the laydown area, so they're a bit delayed on that project, but we should see that starting near the end of the month. Raw pump maintenance is happening. They changed the wear sleeves for both raw pump 1 and 2. Valve exercising on the infrastructure for the upgrades and preventative maintenance. One area that's been identified is that as we're doing shutoffs of water for the Salt River project, basically one of the things we learned is that the shutoff valve for basically from the Marcello's house all the way to the trailer courts, all of everything between McDougall and Marine Drive, that from Marcello's house is the shutoff. So when they're doing that work down on McDougall between Wintergreen and the trailer court, we're actually shutting off. We have to shut off all of that area. That's a huge part of town. So we're going to be looking at putting an additional shutoff valve further down McDougall so that we don't have to shut off, a quarter of the town because there isn't enough shutoff valves. So that's an interesting exercise interesting piece of information that's come up during this exercise. And I think the waterworks guys have been identifying some of these missing valves where they don't have appropriate shutoff valves in some parts of the community. So we're working on that as well. Facility maintenance, again, we had summer staff and some of our community services staff that we were able to give full-time work to. Did a lot of work on the ditching cleanup and the mowing and flowers. I think we saw some really nice improvements around the community for those things. Rainy days, they're just working on shop cleanup. Boardwalk repairs, so there was a section of the boardwalk that was damaged by a vehicle driving over it. So that was repaired. We had a lot of vandalism throughout the community. Traffic signs were tagged, so those have been changed out. The dugouts were tagged. There was more tagging at the lookout. Skate park got tagged, so they were working on cleaning that stuff up. 7-bay gate replacement happened. That was crashed into during a break and enter when they were stealing a vehicle out of the yard. And again, the Bell Rock ditch, the tree removal and fire abatement around the Bell Rock area. All public works and facility maintenance staff were out there for a few days, collectively working on that project. So the Bell Rock roads the ditches and stuff are very clear and much wider, much better visibility. So we have 2 staff that left on Monday. Julian and Trevor went out for training to get their level 1. Our goal is to get all of our water treatment plant staff up to their level 3 in the next 3 years for clean water, as well as work on their wastewater training as well. Our arena update. Do you want it? Yeah, I'll give you the arena update now. So we have heard from the contractor who is going to do the fire suppression system. We should see him next week. We still don't have a firm date from him based on his other work, but he should have all the parts after they did a video inspection with him. So he feels he's got what he needs to do the repair. If that is correct, then fire suppression should be up and running fairly quickly. Our biggest issue is that we don't currently have any staff with the town of Fort Smith who are trained to put in the ice. So MACA is running Arenas 1 and 2 course in Yellowknife at the end of September, where our staff will learn to put in the ice. We've had turnover in that department over the last year based on short-term or disability and staff who've gone on to other work. So we don't have them trained at all. So they'll be taking that course so they can put the ice in. So that does, unfortunately, it takes a minimum of a week. Historically, in the last few years, it's taken closer to 2 weeks to get the ice in. I don't know if they can be more efficient. But as soon as they get back from that course, which I think is like 28th of September, they will be going right into putting the ice in.
Deputy Mayor McDonald?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know have we given any consideration to other options to have the ice installed, contracted out, see if there's another community that can provide a trained ice maintainer, arena facility manager to come in and perform that task for us?
Ms. White?
So the communities that would be putting ice in and have qualified maintainers right now are all putting in ice at the same time. So Hay River, Yellowknife, one of the reasons it's happening in Yellowknife is because they're probably putting sheets in during that period of time. I don't think we have financially can afford to bring somebody in from Inuvik if they have somebody. And then the small communities generally don't. They have natural ice. Most of the small communities have natural ice, so they don't. It's not the same process in regarding to having the plant. So that just isn't the same. It's not transferable necessarily.
Councillor Ferguson?
I just wanted an update from our last meeting in regards to, we had talked about rink leaks for the curling rink and also trucking water delivery alternatives. They're going to come back to us with, no?
Sorry, yeah,
Ms. White?
sorry, we have not yet addressed the curling rink leaks because the contract is using the curling rink as a staging area. And the truck water one, I think we were going to wait. We had some things we needed to suss out on that one.
Councillor Campbell going to stop. Okay. We're always chasing, always trying to catch up everything all the time. Here we are short of people to put in ice again, and we don't look in the far future of anything to say that we need people to put in ice. We're always chasing, waiting for somebody to be hired, somebody to be filled in on a position. How could we change that to make it betterment for the town of Fort Smith? Ms. White?
I do take exception to that comment, Mr. Chair, because we're not chasing. People leave jobs. We have staff. They haven't received the training. The only way we get the training is through MACA. MACA sets when the training happens. We just go by their training schedule. They rotate training throughout the territory. So 1 year the ice making course might be in Inuvik. 1 year it might be here. We don't really have a lot of options on those, but those are the ice making courses that are available to us. Otherwise, we bring in a contractor for significantly higher level of cost that, again, it's not budgeted. And unless council would like to increase those budgets, that's just not a feasible thing. We use the resources we have. I think the idea that we're always chasing everything, this is what we can do financially. This is what we can do with our human resources. Our staff, we're completely staffed. We just don't have everybody trained in that particular area.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, is it possible to talk to MACA and see if they would be interested in maybe changing the location of the maintainer thing and doing it actually in Fort Smith so we can get our ice in sooner?
Ms. White?
I would say no. They have already, this is a plan that they've already got. I can 95% confidence say they're not going to move it because people have already people already planned from other communities to attend this course in Yellowknife. They're not going to change it at the last minute without a significant reason. And us not having an ice maintainer is not going to be a significant enough reason for them. Lots of communities don't have ice maintainers at the best of times. Lots of them don't even have anybody to drive the Zamboni.
Thank you. Councillor Pissner? Oh, sorry.
The other user groups on if we actually have the potential to put the ice in sooner, if what their usage was going to be?
No, we haven't. We've asked them, sent it out, and we haven't heard back from them.
Councillor Pissner?
Just to continue on with this, someone, I think Councillor Crowe had mentioned discussion with MACA about even changing location and that. But maybe the first discussion should be with them is asking them when they offer the course. They know the communities need this by the beginning of September. Why are they offering it at the end of September? We need to have discussion with them when this course should be available. Why isn't it available in August or July? So then those people are ready for September. So let's start that discussion first.
Ms. White?
Thank you. School of Community Government is going through a major transition right now, so this is definitely the right time to have these discussions with them, because this is often the case. We often have courses offered at the wrong time of the year, or, like I said, one year they might offer it in Inuvik, or they might offer it in, Norman Wells, but South Slave communities may not be able to afford to go to those places to take those courses, right? Depending on, so we might be 5 years before we can actually access some of these courses. And then whether or not they've got enough trainers, right? Do they have enough trainers? Are they actually actively seeking enough trainers to be able to offer the courses on a regular basis? We had the course that our water guys are on this week was postponed because the contractor couldn't come up. So it was supposed to happen in July and it got postponed because that contractor couldn't come up. Do they have enough contractors? Are they actively seeking those people to be able to run these courses for the community? Because School of Community Government doesn't help us if they can't provide us the courses. It's not of any benefit to us.
Thank you. Any further questions? Deputy Mayor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would you be able to explore the possibility of getting a quote from a private contractor to put the ice in? It would be essentially one person in our staff could assist. I've put the ice in for a dozen years, so I'm pretty familiar with the process, and I know there are contractors out there that do provide that service. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. White?
Yeah, I'll have the director on that tomorrow.
Mayor Daniels? Any other questions or discussions? No, I'd just like to be ready to put the ice in, that's all, when it's ready. Ms. White?
I do want to say, when I started working for the town 9 years ago, the ice didn't, and it could have been different when Councillor McDonald was with the town, but the ice didn't go in until, the arena didn't open until Thanksgiving weekend. And we keep kind of pushing it. So now it's the beginning of October. So if we have the ice in and by Thanksgiving weekend, as we have indicated in our communication, we actually would be on the schedule that we had previously had and is what is budgeted for. But I know that some groups want to get in earlier. I personally, as a parent and a coach, do not want to get in earlier.
Thank you. Is that all for the director? Any questions for the director report on any roadworks or? Okay, going back, I've got a question. Crack repair on Calder and St. Mary's. There's been a crack in that road that has not been touched all summer. All the way down Calder, there's big cracks and everything. What are we going to do about those? Ms. White?
As I said, those are going to be identified for when they're going to get done. We cannot do crack sealing for the entire community every season. It's impossible. We don't have the resources for it. We don't have the budget for it. We will, just like we don't want to put in I think similar to what we have in the situation right now, we have a number of pieces of infrastructure that are outdated and beyond their useful life that are all need to be repaired or replaced at the same time. And we can't do that physically with our budget, right? We have to space those things out. So just like maintenance of roads, maintenance of sewers, maintenance of sidewalks, we can't always be replacing the whole thing or doing the repairs of the whole thing in one season, because that's cost prohibitive and it's resource prohibitive. So what we want to do as we're working through our asset management planning and our work planning is knowing that this year, this section of whatever piece of infrastructure is being worked on. Next year, this piece of infrastructure is being worked on, this section. And that way we're able then to spread the costs of things throughout a section of years. Because if we're doing crack sealing for the entire season, then we're not doing flushing. And if we're doing, so you have to be aware that all of those things, if we're doing all that, then we're not doing drainage work. If we're doing this thing, then we're not doing that thing. So when we work plan, we work plan knowing that these things are getting done this year, these things are getting done next year, these things are getting done the next year. It is impossible to do it all in 1 year. It is just not, it's not feasible. It's not in the budget. It's not in your staff resources. Contractors, it's not in the contractor's time, right? We've been basically told we've contracted out at this point. So.
Councillor Ferguson?
Thank you. I might have missed it with the discussion, just distracted with writing on the arena and the ice surface. You said our folks are not trained to put the ice in right now, but we are fully staffed to open the arena, but they're just not trained to put the ice in. Is the arena something like with the trucked water? Is this something that they don't? Is it something that they want to keep doing? Is that there's a value, is often, is it something like that? Our folks want to work, do they want to work there?
It's not a question of do they want to work there. It's in the scope of work, and you can't change. And like the reason you can go and contract out work to do trucked water out of the community is because it doesn't impact our collective agreement, right? It doesn't impact the jobs of our staff. That taking water out of the community actually is more work than the staff need to be doing. Doing the arena is a part of their jobs. If you take the arena out, you lose jobs. Say one thing, and contracted is not always better.
Councillor Ferguson?
Thank you. No, my train of thought is that, folks are, if they're happy workers, happy job, happy life, if that's something that they're not in, it's not a joy. Like you don't want to, oh man, I got to do the arena tonight. Like that, what I mean? If that, well, but if that's not what, if folks don't have joy when they're going to the work, is that something that we forced on them, part of their job to go to this? Like, because I see the same folks change locations throughout our departments throughout the year. And so is this the one where they go, oh man, I might have to go there? Or they're like, oh yay, I get to go there. How does that work for them?
Ms. White?
I would suggest the arena as a preferred work location. I think things like pumping out the porta potties is less preferred, right? We have lots of jobs, and I think it's really important to remember we have lots of jobs that people have to do that are not preferred jobs, and they still have to do them. Even if the arena was not a preferred job, it is part of their job duties, and they still have to do them. We can discuss this a tiny bit more later when we're not talking human resources. But yeah, I think the arena, my impression from it is that's a preferred job. We have some young people that work for us this summer who have volunteered to be casual so they can drive the Zamboni in case we need somebody, right? Like it's definitely, they won't let me drive it, but it looks fun.
Councillor Tuckey?
I hate to be a stick in the mud, but sometimes you just have to say what you have to say. There was a time where in the town of Fort Smith where we had a small maintenance crew. And for some reason, I don't know how they did it, but I think we're talking about a crew of 5 or 6 would have all the grass throughout the community cut. They would have the crack sealed. They would flush out the systems. I'm talking about the days back with, Jean Doucette and those guys, Stanley Burke. They had no problems getting things done. It was done on a yearly basis. I understand that planning is a big part of it. But this day and age, we also have a much larger workforce. I was just in Fort Chip, and I was amazed at how beautiful that community is. Their airport is 7.5 kilometers from town. Each side of the road 150 feet to a perfectly cut line along the bush, totally mowed and everything. And I was saying, why can't Fort Smith look like this? There was a time where Fort Smith was considered the garden capital of the Northwest Territories. But I think if you drive around here, there's a lot of greenery and stuff, but then it doesn't have that garden capital of the North look anymore. I mean, there are certain fields you look across from Brennan Hall, from the old Evans's house to the high school. It's overgrown this high. Why is that? There was a time where people could drive around Fort Smith anywhere. Everything was cut, trimmed, and looked good. All the systems were flushed out. All the roads were repaired. But today it's just not happening. And I really have to wonder why it's not being done. I find it rather concerning, because we are a large employer in this town. And just, we're having so much difficulty getting things done.
I agree with Councillor Tucky. With all the, and I still go back to the crack filling. We had not had proper crack filling in the last 3 years, and we blamed it on COVID for so many years. And now we're doing one little street a year. There's some major stuff, major cracks that have to be filled. The water is wrecking the
I
whole
think we
road.
should get back to point of order and go back to what we're talking about
I am
here.
talking about it.
I know, but maybe we can save that for
Okay, do it.
an in-camera or something else.
Okay, let's go on. Fire Department report. Go ahead.
Thank you. So we've had a couple of grass fires on the 5th and 3rd of July that were responded to. I wonder if that had anything to do with the, I don't know, tagging. I don't know. I'm making assumptions. Volunteer ambulance, it's a shorter list this month, which is great. We still had 3 medevacs though, and several code 1s, which are life-threatening incidents. We have unfortunately lost our deputy coordinator for fire department. He's left us, so thank you to Tony Jones for his many years of volunteer service with the town of Fort Smith and the fire department, or the ambulance department, I should say. He'll be sorely missed. He's played a lot of roles in that department, including when we had no director of protective services or supervisor or anybody. He took on that role of coordinator and made sure we had our volunteers staffed. They moved to Yellowknife. Training continued over the month of July through the summer. So there was some ambulance driver orientation, which generally means we're getting some new volunteers, or we're transferring some of our fire guys over to ambulance, which is great. So some good training happening there. And you can see the graphs that the director likes to put together. It's got pretty graphs. So this month of July, a little bit lower than the previous years of 21, 20, and 19, which is good to see. It means maybe we have some improvements in the community. Interestingly enough, we're going to follow up with this in regards to the communication that was sent to, or I guess it was on cabin radio, about how they're going to staff emergency departments and perhaps use paramedics and those sorts of things. So we have, generally our department has been very willing to help in the emerge department, providing an extra set of hands under the direction of nurses and or physicians, and we will continue to offer that to the hospital. There's no indication if we're getting any extra bodies in our emerge department. I don't there's no indication of whether or not those paramedics or extra nurses or recruitment funding or whatever is going to come to Fort Smith. We've heard nothing other than that cabin radio article, unfortunately. So.
Thank you. Any questions? Deputy Mayor McDonald?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to go back one little step. It was brought to my attention that there was some vandalism done to the track. And I just was wondering if anyone has had an opportunity to look at that. And I know from talking to some of the people that were involved with the actual building of the track, there was repair material apparently left to do some maintenance on the track in the event of damage. So I just thought it's such a beautiful piece of town infrastructure that we should certainly ensure that someone looks at that and figure out what needs to be done to repair that damage. Thank you.
Ms. White?
Thank you. I was away. I think that was right before I got back, and someone said something to me in passing about it, but I don't think anybody actually called the town office about it. So I will follow up with the directors about that tomorrow to see what we can do and where that material is currently. I'm not sure how long that stuff lasts for, so we'll have to do some investigation. I don't know if it settles or what, so we'll have to do some investigation to see if we can get that repaired. If you're unaware, somebody lit a fire on the track. Somebody had a fire on the track.
Any other,
This is why we can't have nice things.
any other one? Any other questions or anything? Okay, then we're moving on to advisory boards. No advisory board, no bylaw and policy development, administration. Ms. White?
Thank you, sir. The first one is a home occupation application for Derek Martin for his operating of Martin Outfitting Inc. at 17 Pine Crescent, Lot 295, Plan 207, Fort Smith. He's a tenant of the property and has obtained the approval of the owner. It's zoned R1, so it does require council approval, as it is a conditional use for home occupation business. He's applied for business license to operate a business and has indicated operations include on-site boat storage and office work to support the business. There will be no foot traffic or customer interactions at the property. He has been made aware of all of the appropriate bylaws, codes, and regulations and legislation. They'll have a storage of one boat on site, office activities. Again, no foot traffic, customer parking, or lodging on site. So we recommend that this be approved.
I'll recommend that DPA-020-22 submitted by Derek Martin to operate a home occupation business, Martin Outfitting Inc., located at 17 Pine Crescent, Lot 295, Plan 207, Fort Smith, NT, be approved as presented, subject to compliance requirements.
I'll second that.
Seconder. And discussion? Seeing no good, all in favor?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yep. You have a second DPA application here from Ruth Ann Modeste. Applications to operation of a magma, I don't know, I'm sorry, Ruth Ann, unthreaded at 18 Turbingen Street, Lot 23 and 24, Block 18, Plan 212, Fort Smith. Ruth Ann is the property owner. It's zoned R2, and home occupation business is conditional use, so requires council approval. It is going to include office space to support the business and online order fulfillment. There will be no additional foot or vehicle traffic to the residents. Offsite operations would include pop-up stores. So she's an artisan, and she's been made aware of all of the requirements under the various legislation and bylaws and regulations and codes. And we recommend approval.
I'll make the recommendation that DPA 020-22 submitted by,
Sorry, that should be -3.
Ooh, I see.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, sorry,
That
Four.
DPA 202-24,
no, sorry, 024-22.
that DPA -204-22 submitted by Ruth Modeste to operate a home occupation business, Agamama Unthreaded, located at 18 Ptarmigan Street, Lot 23 and 24, Block 18, Plan 212, Fort Smith, NT, be approved as presented, subject to compliance and requirements.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just have a question. 024 is already being used for the next one that's coming up.
What?
It jumps from 22 to 23. And then back into something.
I will have that confirmed and I will have it modified for, yeah, this one should have been 022. Up on the,
Ours is with 020.
yeah, this one is 22022, according to for my head, scan it by myself. So this should be 022-22.
All in favor? Okay, passed. Next, home occupation, Ms. White.
Thank you. So it's zoned R1. So council approval is required because it's a conditional use. It would indicate operations include office space to support the business. There will be no additional foot traffic or vehicle traffic to the residents. She's been made aware of all of the applicable bylaws, legislation, regulations, and codes.
Thank you. Mover.
I'll make the recommendation that DPA -024-22 submitted by Hillary Leroy Gauthier to operate a home occupation business, North Star Leadership, located at 30 Pine Crescent, Lot 391, Plan 207, Fort Smith, NT, be approved and presented, subject to compliance requirements.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Next one, D, demolition.
I think this is the same briefing note that council saw previously in regards to the water treatment plant buildings, and our initial plan to demo both the shed and the brick building. We have had a couple of other contractors out to look at it, and they are quite confident that we're very low on the $120,000 to repair it. We have some indication of maybe the roof. There is a hole in the concrete as you come in where the where we would want to put the bay door, so that will need to be repaired. Insulation may have to be dealt with. It does appear it might have some mold in it. And then again, it would need to be painted. There would need to be some landscaping around the building to bring it into the compliance in regards to the unsightly lands bylaw. So that's being said, the other update I have for you in this regard is that the contractor who originally won the tender for the demolition has withdrawn from the project. So we do have a secondary option from Fort Smith Construction. Have the amount here. at $134,890 to do both buildings, depending on how council wants to proceed. We would either send this out to ask Fort Smith Construction for a quote on just that one building, or it is a change of scope, so we could put it back out to tender.
Any questions? Okay, I think.
So the original contractor who was awarded the tender no longer is interested and withdrew their interest. So now it's by default doesn't go to Fort Smith Construction if we want to proceed on the original tender that we put out. And that was for demolition of both those buildings, and they will be removed to the landfill for not reuse or repurpose, right?
I'll make a motion so we can discuss it and then we can vote on it. I move that we move forward with the demolition of the WTP buildings in the slide zone.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion? Deputy Mayor McDonald.
Yeah, so I think after, I mean, this has been a fairly contentious issue amongst all of the council and members of the community, and I think that whatever direction that we go, I would certainly support the demolition component going to the next bidder, a local company in Fort Smith Construction. I think as part of the, I don't think there's any question about the brick building. I think that we've pretty much all agreed that that one's coming down no matter what. I don't have concerns with the direction that we talked about or was raised in looking at the renovation of the existing building for storage. I just want to ensure that we are getting value for the investment, I guess. If we're going to invest the money in reviving that building for storage, is the investment that we have to make worth what we're going to get at the end of the day? That's my only concern. So I see some big numbers here in the 100, 120, 120 plus. I don't know. I have not been to the site, so I don't really have an opinion specifically on that other than the numbers I'm seeing here. So that's just like my sort of 2 cents on the thing.
So is it going to still cost us money to demolish the brick building, which is a portion of that? So at least like $80,000 to demolish that brick building, and then an additional $120,000 to upgrade and put this metal building in a usable way. So we're at $200,000 for demo the one we want and then repair the one to keep. Puts this now at over $200,000 easily for this. If to keep it. And then if we're just going to just destroy and just demolish and remove, it's $135,000. And then ongoing maintenance for it in the future, what is that? So now we have the building that we have to look after, because that's 120 is just to bring it up to code, safely used. That's not even including, is that including like putting it like where we're dropping it, the landscaping, the painting? That's not including any of those things. And then ongoing maintenance. Did we have a budget for this item? I thought we had a budget for building a new structure, a new storage structure at the bay.
Ms. White?
Sorry, yes, council did approve 2 new cold storage sheds, one at 7 Bay and one which will be at the water tower, which will have the pumps and various pieces of equipment in them. The the director's original intent was to salvage some of the materials from this building to build a structure that we could store hazardous materials in, because right now all of our hazardous materials are out in the open, which is not ideal. So there was going to be some attempt to repurpose some of the materials, obviously not all of the materials. And I don't have all the details about what that was going to look like. But yeah, so the budget, so the demo is an unbudgeted item. It's definitely been something people have talked about, the buildings being unsightly. And when we got the unsightly notices from bylaw, it did move that forward for us. And then the sheds have already been approved.
Okay, and this $120,000, did we get it in writing? Is what they're going to do? There's no upgrades to be done to the building because there's only the hole to fill in front of the building, and there's lights and power already, so there's no bringing it up to codes or anything because we never shut the power off. So that's all good yet. It just put some paint inside, and this $120,000. Did we get it in a quote saying what they're going to give it to us for? I could give you a quote for $120,000 verbally anytime. I think this building is very valuable. It's on a good pad. And if they say it's in slide zone, we got more problems to worry about if it slides because we got our pumps gone too down below. So if it's $120,000, we should have somebody put that in writing to us and say, yes, this is what's going to cost us. Put it out to tender and see what comes back to put a bit of paint on there and some siding before we demolish that building. Thanks. Ms. White.
As I mentioned, we've had 3 contractors look at it. All 3 say it's a minimum of $120,000 to bring it up to usable. Some it's higher. We would want a bay door installed because right now, if we were going to use it, we would be using it for water treatment materials, which would require being able to get the loader in and out of it. So that is an upgrade that would have to happen. Again, the concrete pad would have to be updated where the big hole is. It looks like it might be a bit of a sinkhole. So yeah, we don't have it in writing because we haven't put it out to tender because we don't have direction from council, but we do have had 3 different contractors go out and look at it and tell us it will be in excess of, the 120 was the low end of the quotes that we got.
Go ahead, Ms. Councilor.
I was just wondering if we had this middle building demolished, would it be demolished in such a way that it would be able to be repurposed? And what was the budget for repurposing that at the landfill? Like how much was going to be spent to do that?
Ms. White.
My understanding is that that would just be work that we would do internally.
Councilor Tucky.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this definitely has been an issue. And I don't know why people are giving us a cost to repair this building to code when this building doesn't need to be repaired to code. It's a cold storage building that has power, and all we need is lighting. And the director agreed with us that all they had to do was properly store stuff in there, build some shelving and whatnot. But I don't know where the mention came in for a bay door. But it's well, I just think just for where it's located and what we need to store in there, that building is in great shape. It just doesn't look all that nice.
I just wanted to, about the building location, how often is it, if we're going to start using it as more of a water treatment storage space, how often is it vandalized? How often are folks out there attending to something that's being, because it is kind of out of the way and not seen? as often as some of the our other buildings? Does it have a problem with that there?
Ms. White?
Yes, it's thoroughly covered in tagging. Our staff would be down to there at least once a day, like down to the raw intake at least once a day. I do want to comment that all of the information I'm giving you is at the request of the Director of Municipal Services. I think that perhaps Councillor Tuckey thinks I'm adding things in, but this is the information that had been given by the Director of Municipal Services for how to make it most usable by the department and by the town. So things like the bay door are requests to make it a building that is of value. But yeah, I mean, those buildings, that's why part of the reason they need, because they're tagged, where people break into them. And to be honest, the staff haven't been doing anything to fix it up other than put some additional siding on it to try and block the holes, because we do use it as storage, like the Christmas lights are in there. Yeah, it would only be looked at a couple times a day, probably.
Councillor Pissinger?
Okay, I guess in your answer there, you have answered one of my questions as to what's in the building right now. And is the contract still out to get two buildings? And you said one was going to the water treatment area. So why are they going to move that stuff over there when they're going to get a building? That's one of my questions. And you answered that it's just the Christmas decorations right now. So we're still getting 2 new buildings. So it has nothing to do with moving the water treatment if they're getting a building. So why are we going to put that stuff over there?
Ms. White?
If any of the councillors remember this and would like to correct me, I think at one point during this very lengthy discussion, there was talk about using that for the water treatment stuff and moving one of those other buildings to the landfill. So, at this point, it's gotten quite complicated, and we're trying to answer as many questions as y'all have, but we don't really know what your questions are anymore. Because it sort of keeps going around and around, and we keep answering the same questions over and over again. So at one point, the idea was we would keep this building. The second building would go to perhaps the landfill instead of to water treatment to use. So we really just need to know if you want us to do something with this building, if you're ready, prepared to invest whatever the outcome is of a tender to repair the building.
Okay, just one item to clear up before we're going. Coming on to 10 o'clock. What time do you want to go till? 10:30 or 15-minute increments? Then we need a motion.
I'll make a recommendation that we extend the meeting till 10:15.
Seconder?
I'll second.
All in favor? Yes. Okay, we're going to 10:15. Okay, Councillor Ferguson?
So when the tender first came out and the discussion was first brought up in regards to the demolition and it being awarded out, was then the repurposing of this structure an afterthought? And because that might have added on to this, but it was always the intent, even with the tender, that it was going to be the product, this material was going to be brought to the landfill, and then we were going to operationally tinker with these debris and create a storage space. Because is this what's complicated this whole thing, is that we're to the repurposing of the steel frame, the steel metal building, and it's going to stay where it is, and we're going to fix it up and leave it where it is. It's not being moved. Is that what? Because in here it was talking about a crane and power lines and stuff because we're relocating it somewhere.
Well,
So I'm confused.
yeah, certainly at one point there was discussion about what would happen if we relocated it. So that's what cost we got as well.
So the $120,000 is this crane power to relocate this building to, okay. 120 is to fix as it stands. Plus, okay.
I'm all in favor of demolishing a brick building. If we could save the bricks, put them in a nice pile, I want to keep them. But this other building's too valuable to give up on. It has a nice concrete base. They could put an overhead door in there from the other side yet, and we could still use this one if they want to use it for their thing, whatever they want. But we keep this building because we can't just go every time a wish list comes up and we go and, oh yeah, we can demolish it. No, it's a perfectly good foundation. That's $100,000 foundation. And the steel building on top of it, all structurally sound, looks good and everything. And we just have to do a bit of work and to bring it up to whatever for bright lighting and safeties. Thanks. Councillor, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So here's a possible solution. If we moved ahead with the demolition of the brick building, we do whatever we have to do to be compliant with the unsightly order on that building, if that's a coat of paint on the outside or whatever for now. And because we don't have this obviously in our budget, another $100,000+. We determine a proper scope of work of what we want to do to that building and get a Class C estimate or whatever. And then we can take that and decide if we're going to go forward with the tendering process. And that way it allows us to move forward with the demo. We can comply and we still have options available to us as to what we do with the second building.
Ms. White?
Yeah, I think if council wants to wait and see how it fits in the capital budget based on some more accurate cost estimating. And then I think what we talked about was, the brick building is the one that's the big part of the demo. Is the vast majority of the cost is the building with asbestos in it. It's going to be harder to bring down. So I don't know what the cost savings will be. We can certainly talk to the contractor, Fort Smith Construction as the second highest bidder around that, if you don't want us to put it back out to tender. And perhaps because we're going to be now local, maybe the MOB and DMOB, that would have been one of the barriers of waiting on the second building, was that we would then have to pay additional mobilization next year if you decided to go with it, right? Because we would have to have stayed with the Hay River contractor because the tender already happened. We couldn't just put it back out as a whole different, because the scope of work hasn't changed. But we might find that we find some cost savings if it goes to a local contractor. But again, you can't guarantee that. It could go to an out-of-town contractor.
Thank you. Mayor Daniels?
Yes. I think what we should do in this case, I know there's a lot of talk about removing it and probably keeping it. So what I'm looking at now is, after hearing everyone, is I think we should just keep it. I think the contract should be awarded to the next contender. Now there's probably some leeway there because we didn't put in for two buildings, right? So you're going to have some leeway there of what that one building is going to cost, since the other one dropped out. And take that money, give it a paint job. I don't think you need siding on it. It's a tin building. You're using it as closed storage. Leave it there. Perhaps if there's vandalism, you may want to put out a price quote on a fence for probably next year, not this year. And then take one of those buildings that we had and move it to the land facility site. Because that one, I believe this one was to go there, but the price of demolishing it or taking it apart and resetting it at the landfill site, it's going to be too costly. So I would leave it there. Do what you got to do to take us off the unsightly thing, and then fix that hole in the center. Maybe put your garage door in if you want it this year. But yeah, but go ahead with that. The removal of the brick one, like we need that one taken down, and yeah, do it locally. You do have some room, like I said there. So that's probably the way I would play it. So.
Ms. White,
I wonder if the mover, Councilor or Deputy Mayor McDonald, might want to modify his recommendation.
Okay, I'll amend my recommendation to that administration contact the second ranked bidder in the tendering process to discuss the cost of demolishing the brick building, and that we, oh crap.
Ms. White,
I just want to make sure that we're not in a position where, because it will still be outside my spending authority, we know that what the bid was for both the buildings is $136,000. We know that we're not going to pay $136,000 for one building. Is there a way to word the motion so that you're approving the contract, knowing that it's going to be within a certain budget, and then that's left for me to negotiate? If we come back with it, then it's September before we get it approved, which means we're getting close to the season, end of season. So I just want to make sure that we get it done.
it's demolition, it don't matter.
So what, I guess before I maybe word this, what is council comfortable with for a number on the demo of the brick building? Like, are we happy to approve 90,000 or less? Like,
Well, I don't like getting into that stuff. Let's get it approved. It's demolition. They could do it right late into the fall. It's taking one building, let's get it done, and get a price for it and go for it from there.
So maybe the motion is, you've approved proceeding with the demolition of the brick building, and that administration will negotiate with the contractor on costs.
Yep, it just if you're getting into winter, then the costs are gonna come up again.
It's still
So,
fall.
Sooner the better.
That's council's decision.
I'll second your motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, passed.
I just have a question.
Okay, Councilor Pissinger?
When we approve the demolition and a contract for 2 new buildings, never was it mentioned that this other one was going to go, they were going to be demolished. Never was it mentioned to go to the dump for
That's right.
everything.
Yeah.
So I really have concern there with the initial wording and things where we started. It was to demolish them. Nothing was saying to reconstruct. Our staff will do it at the dump. I want that new building still at the water treatment plant, which is very important for our community, for them to store their stuff. The Christmas decorations are in this old building. Obviously, they're fine there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. White?
There was never intention to move the whole building to the dump. There was an intention to repurpose some of the siding to cover a shelter. Yeah, but that's an operational decision that we use with leftovers, right? That's,
Okay.
no, it was never been the contractor hauling
Okay.
away. It was always
Okay.
going to the dump. All
Okay.
of our stuff is going to the dump.
Okay. Thank you. Next. Moving on, we passed that one. Removal of hazardous waste from landfill.
So part of
Oh, Ms.
Thank you. So part of continuing to improve our landfill and improve our water license outcomes is removing hazardous waste. It hasn't been done in a number of years. We had been working with a local company in an attempt to get them to do it. They had agreed to it, and now they've informed us that they will not be proceeding with that. So we did get a quote from an NWT company who specializes in waste, Kavanaugh, and the quote came back at $181,497,000. It's getting blurry. To remove the hazardous waste from the landfill. This is a part of the bigger project of our landfill reclamation and expansion. We've got to do some of this cleanup work in order to begin preparing for the redesign and work at the landfill. So as well, it keeps getting mentioned as part of our water license issues. So we are requesting that be approved to Kavanaugh for $181,497,000. It would be coming out of the larger landfill reclamation and expansion funding.
Mover,
I move that the quote for removal of hazardous waste from the landfill be awarded to Kavanaugh Waste Removal Services in the amount of $181,497.
I'll second that.
discussion? Mayor Daniels?
For the removal of that, is there special vehicles that come in, or is it just basically a trailer, an 18-foot trailer, or 18-wheeler trailer, pardon me? Because I guess what I'm thinking of is you have truckers that come in here on daily schedules and they're hauling waste material or hazardous material, right? So I'm thinking those tankers are going back empty, right? So I'm thinking, could we not get a better deal there from Grimshaw or whoever?
No.
Or, like, I'm not sure where this stuff goes. So I imagine it's going to Rocky Mountain House or something.
It's going to go to an appropriate facility
Ms. Smith?
for whatever they do with hazardous waste disposal. Thank you for the word. But yeah, there is. I mean, they have to have proper certification to move this stuff. There are roll-off bins that are going to come. It is a bit of a process. I'm like, no, we can't put it onto the Grimshaw.
Oh, you have to be certified to handle transportation of dangerous goods.
Yeah.
Okay, just looking at cutting costs.
Councillor Pisner?
And this is work that has to be done. It needs further. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, and then we come to the time we have to extend again.
I'll move that we extend the meeting for an additional 15 minutes till 10:30 p.m.
Seconder? Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, good, let's go on till 10:30. Water meter deposits.
So council had asked for more information about water meter deposits. I think we looked at this briefing note previously and it was tabled because some of the councilors wanted to have everybody here for the discussion. Unfortunately, now everybody is here for the discussion. So there was a question about why do we take deposits? What do other companies do? What do other utilities do? What other municipalities do? So we provide you that background information for you to give us direction or stay as we are.
Deputy Mayor McDonald?
Yeah, I think this is probably a little bit of a discussion still going to happen around this. Maybe we should table it to next month. It's not critical that we deal with it today. I move that we table this item to the September Community Services meeting.
Seconder? Oh, sorry. All in favor? Okay. Excusing, in camera. So gonna need a motion to go in camera.
I move that we go in camera at 10:15 p.m.
I second that.
Seconder, all in favor? Okay, pass. Let's go in camera.
You're so past my first time. No.